All right, guys. So we will start. We'll start the session. Am I audible to all of you? Can you just message me? The voice is loud and clear. Okay. All right. So, guys, some of you have joined last 2-3 days. What I'll do is I'll not be starting from the chapter 1 today. You just go through the first chapter from the videos which are available to you. So the first chapter you complete like that, and then in the next week I'll be trying to do that in the live session if it is required. Okay, I'll do that in the live session in the next week. So I'll be directly starting with the second chapter. But even then, normally what I used to do is whenever I go with a particular topic, I'll just discuss about what all things we have discussed so far. So you will actually get a recap of that. And I'm expecting some of you are having some knowledge already about sociology. So that won't be a big problem for you. So let's start with the second chapter. And I'll be starting with a topic today, which is objectivity. One of the most important topic again, when it comes to these initial chapters. Why objectivity is important is because all the time, most of the time, right from chapter 1, we are talking about objectivity, right? So when we discussed about emergence of sociology, we have discussed that sociology have emerged and then to explain the social changes, to provide solutions to the problems, and then to predict the future of society. So the initial intellectuals, they wanted to make it similar to natural science. Then only you will get that initial legitimacy, because sociology is relatively a very young discipline. So if you need to get that acceptance among the intellectuals, you need to claim that it is scientific. You cannot simply claim that it is scientific. You have to conduct the investigation, or the subject matter should be similar to science. So we have discussed about Saint Simon. He wanted to make it similar to social physics, or he conceptualized a discipline, something like social physics, which is similar to natural science physics. Then Auguste Comte, Herbert Spencer. So the point is, initial sociologists, if you have missed those sessions, the idea is initial sociologists, they wanted to make sociology pretty much similar to natural science. Now, the reason, I hope you understood, to get that acceptance among the intellectuals, to get that initial legitimacy. So when you are considering this as science, you will obviously use the method similar to science, the approach is similar to science. So in sociology also, you try to do the same thing. You have tried to replicate the same methods which is used in natural science. For example, you will see statistical techniques which is used in studying social phenomena. But it is slightly difficult to use the method similar to natural science in sociology. Why? Because in sociology, we are dealing with human beings. Human beings have emotions, and the emotions of individual cannot be quantified. So we cannot simply use the methods which you use normally in natural science, like statistical technique, which is a quantitative method. Quantitative method means things which can be quantified in terms of numbers. But in sociology, when you're dealing with human beings, you cannot use such kind of quantitative methods, especially statistical techniques. I won't say that you cannot use, but there are obvious limitations in using these kinds of methods in sociology. So why they want to use this? They want to make it similar to natural science. So one of the most important concern at that point of time was, you should ensure objectivity in any investigation. Then only you can consider that body of knowledge as scientific. Now the question is, what you mean by objectivity? Right, this is what we are going to discuss now. See guys, this is a very, very, very simple topic. I don't think that I will have to put a lot of effort to make you understand. Objectivity simply means freedom from all personal bias, without any bias. See, if I treat you objectively, means what? I treat everyone like the same, right? The judiciary should not be biased, means what? That is what objectivity. So there should not be any personal bias. There should not be any preconceptions. There should not be any assumptions about anything. There should not be any presumptions. You may be a Muslim or you may be a Hindu. You are studying some religion. Your personal feelings should not affect that study, right? That is what all about objectivity. Will it ever happen in natural science? It will not, right? Why? Because you are studying matter. Matter means which do not have any consciousness. Like, you know the behavior of water. If you freeze the water at freezing point, or if you boil the water at boiling point, you know what is going to happen and you can predict also. But is it the case with human beings? No, right? Human beings studying another human being. So there will be a lot of things which will affect the research. So there is some problem which is going to come with respect to objectivity in sociology, which will not happen in natural science. So that is why this question was arised. Can we consider this as science? Because we cannot ensure objectivity in sociology. Why? You are dealing with human beings. Human beings have consciousness. See, I'm a researcher. I'm studying something. I have consciousness. I'm a male. I can study from that male perspective, or even if I'm supposed to study domestic violence, I may study from male perspective. A pure patriarchal mindset is what I have. So I will be conducting based on that, right? Or I may be a Hindu, or I may be a South Indian, or I may be a North Indian. If I'm conducting a study based on region or regionalism, or I may be conducting a study based on religion, that your consciousness will definitely affect the research, right? So that is why there is a question of objectivity in sociology. Can we ensure objectivity? If not, what are the areas in your research where you compromise objectivity? So guys, now one more point. In which approach you are talking about objectivity? We have two types of theory building, or two types of investigation. We have to follow either inductive approach or deductive approach. And you know that inductive approach is what more suitable and more mostly used in sociology in the beginning, because inductive approach is what is used in natural science. Now, what is inductive approach? Right from data collection. First, you have to study something, right? What you will do, I have given that example of accident. You need to study, suppose accident, we'll take that phenomena. So there are accidents which are happening. So what I'll do is I'll follow inductive approach. What is that approach? Without anything in my mind, I start investigation. So I'll collect the data first, like how many accidents have happened, what is the time in which the accidents are happening, what is the time span in which the accidents are happening, how many deaths is there, how many critically injured people are there, or how many normal injuries there. All these will be taken into consideration, and I get everything in terms of numbers, right? And based on this, so inductive approach, we take things in numbers, quantitative data, and then we go for analysis of that data which we collected. Then we go for interpretation. We may draw tables, we may draw graphs, okay, and we may make plotting tables, or different methods are there to plot the data. You might have done that in the physics labs and everything, right? Finally, we make a conclusion. That is a generalization. And we may be able to predict that this month, this much accidents is possible. And you may come with a conclusion that it is because of monsoon that accidents are more, or it may be because of the turning that is the issue. Or you may come up with an understanding based on the analysis that you have done. Remember, in inductive approach, there is nothing which is there in your mind before the investigation. You go, you take up the analysis. Based on the data you collected, you come up with a conclusion. It is quantitative. It is very much scientific, okay? And there is no possibility of personal bias here. But qualitative or the deductive approach, what is that? Here you're trying to deduce it. For example, I want to study domestic violence. So what I'll do is, guys, I'm actually coming from gym. That's why I'm sweating. Even the AC is on, but still I'm coming from gym. That's why I'm sweating. Okay. So please don't mind that. Okay. When it comes to deductive approach, I want to study domestic violence. And in fact, deductive approach is what more suitable in sociology. So in deductive approach, what you normally do is you make a hypothesis. That means the assumptions are already framed first. I'll make a hypothesis that domestic violence is because of alcoholism, or domestic violence is because of dowry, or I may make some assumptions. That is what the hypothesis, which is made first. And then what I do is I'll try to prove that only. So here, the entire purpose of the researcher is confined to prove his own hypothesis. And this is very much biased. This is very much subjective. If I have made an opinion in mind before, then I will only try to prove that there may be many other reasons for domestic violence. I will not even look into that. I've made a mind that it is because of dowry, or it is because of alcoholism. I try to prove that only. Now, you are a female, you have an experience of domestic violence, and you know it is because of alcoholism. So you will only try to, if you are a female and you are conducting the study and you are facing this problem from your husband or your family, then you will only go with that analysis first, right? So this is what you mean by deductive approach. it is deduced from the hypothesis, or you're trying to prove the hypothesis. Here, the subjective interpretation will come of the researcher. This is very much biased. Inductive, the scope is very less in case of personal bias. Deductive, the personal bias, the chance is very much high. But in sociology, we mostly use deductive approach. The reasons and everything you will understand in the coming sessions. So did you guys got some idea about what I mean by objectivity? What is inductive approach? What is deductive approach? How the objectivity will be compromised? Objectivity will be compromised because of personal bias. Now, what I need to tell you is how this personal bias will come. Guys, I'll write everything and I'll explain everything in the second step. Now I'll just talk, listen to me, get some idea. I'll go with one more round so that things will be more clear. And then I'll go with the PDF also so that things will be printed in your mind. So yeah, I'm talking about personal bias. Now, how the personal bias will come? Why we are biased? We are biased because of certain values we carry. Now this, and I'm introducing another term to you. We carry certain values. Just before I've told you, I have a patriarchal mindset. It is not that I have a patriarchal mindset. Just because you're born as a man, then obviously you might have that mindset, right? So that is some value that you carry. This is a patriarchal mindset or the patriarchal value. From where it is coming? From the society in which you're living. So if you have a patriarchal value, your thoughts will be based on that, right? So what you mean by value? Now listen, values are the belief or ideas that we carry in our mind, based on which we evaluate the desirability, undesirability, superiority, inferiority, preferability, rejection of anything. So if I carry a patriarchal mindset, if I have the patriarchal value, if I live in a society where male dominated, then the beliefs that I carry, the ideas that I carry related to women will be as a subordinate only, right? So who will be considered desirable? Male child. Who will be considered preferable? Male. Female is not considered preferable, right? Who will be considered superior? Male. So this is what you mean by value. So what is value? Values are the beliefs and ideas that we carry in our mind, based on which we evaluate anything. You evaluate people on the basis of value you carry. You may consider North Indians are superior, or some religion is superior, or some region is superior, or some particular gender is superior. All these are the values. So the values will come from anything. It could be language, it could be region, it could be religion, it could be anything. Okay. Mainly it is coming from society in which you are living. Family have a lot of role to play. Religion have a lot of role to play. Schools, education have a lot of role to play, the peer group and everything. So all these will set your values, and your personal bias will generally come from your values. What kind of value you have, based on that, you will have the personal bias. So whenever you conduct any investigation or any study, your personal bias or these values will affect. Now, how can you remain objective? So I've told you personal bias is the problem. I've also told you personal bias comes from value. So tell me guys, how can you remain objective? The only way to remain objective is to remain value neutral. You should not study as a Hindu or a Muslim. You should not study as a North Indian or South Indian. You should not study as a male or a female. You should not study as a English or Indian, right? So guys, if you see even 1857 revolt, when we talk about 1857 revolt, people have different interpretations, right? People will say it is a Muslim conspiracy against British. Some sections will say it is a first war of independence. Some will say it is a clash between barbarianism and civilization, right? So who's barbaric, who's civilized? That is different question. But the point is, different people interpret in different way. Why? Again, if you see history, the role of South Indians are very less in history. Why? Because most of the historians are North Indians. It's not that the South Indian contribution is actually less. No, that's not the case. Most of the historians are North Indians. Similarly, if you see, the role of Muslims is very less. Why? Because most of the historians are Hindus. Same way, role of female is very less because most of the historians are male. But this is where that personal bias will come, right? I hope you understood. You are getting the point, what I want to tell you. So you are not objective. You are not actually putting the fact. So again, when you are writing your answer, what you need to do, you should understand the facts and the situation. Facts means the actual reality. You have to write as not as a Hindu or a Muslim, not as a male or a female, not as a North Indian or South Indian, right? Not as an Indian or English, but a person as a scholar who understood the fact and who can make proper interpretation from that without being any of these. This is what we mean by objective understanding or objective study. And this is what exactly we are looking for. So I repeat again, objectivity means freedom from personal bias. These bias will come from values. So how can you remain objective? Free from all the values. That's what you can say. You need to remain value neutral. So value neutrality is the essential precondition for ensuring objectivity. You can term it in any way, either value neutrality or value freedom or anything. So value freedom lead to objectivity. Value freedom is there means chances of personal bias will be less. Why? Personal bias is coming all because of the values. If personal bias is not there, then you can remain objective, right? So how to remain objective? The only way to remain objective is value neutrality. If values are affecting your research, you can never, ever be objective. Simple. Now we need to see in our research where all this objectivity can be compromised. We are not talking about objectivity in deductive approach. Why? Deductive approach is all about subjectivity. It accommodates subjectivity. So we are talking about objectivity in the context of science. We are talking about objectivity when we are using inductive approach. So let's look into inductive approach. What are the normal steps in inductive approach? First is accumulation of data. That means the data collection, then interpretation of data, then theory building, like that. In which all areas objectivity will be compromised. First step itself, accumulation of data. Don't you think that objectivity will be compromised here? Right? Because the kind of methods that you use will be based on the researcher's priority. If he want to collect certain data, even when we discuss about Durkheim's theories, we will say that the data he collected is actually done purposely to suit his convenience. So despite his claim for being an inductivist, he's actually a deductivist because he already made a conclusion in his mind and he only tried to prove that by claiming that he's an inductivist. So my point here is, even though the first step, that is accumulation of data, you may claim that you collect quantitative data, you use proper methods and everything, but there is a possibility. See, imagine you are an interviewer. Suppose the method that you're using is interview or questionnaire. The kind of questions you're forming, bias is there, yes or no, right? Interview also, the questions that you're forming, bias is there. The answers that the other party is giving, will it be completely neutral? No, right? So accumulation of data itself is a problem. Again, interpretation. When you're interpreting the data, you use different perspective. Guys, this we will discuss in detail in the coming sessions. For example, when we study inequality, there are thinkers who consider inequality as very much good, functional. These are functionalist approach, functionalist perspective. They are of the opinion that inequality is there because it is fulfilling some vital functions for the society. So it is a society which is maintaining that inequality. Then only society can survive. If inequality is not there, if rich and poor is not there, society cannot survive. That's the situation. So inequality is essentially fulfilling some vital, very vital functions for the society, and that help in the survival of society. So despite whatever efforts government do, still inequality is there because it is a society which is trying to maintain the inequality because it is functional for society. This is one approach. On the other side, Marx, the conflict theorist, they will criticize it, right? Inequality is not good and they demand for egalitarian society, which is a utopian concept which will never come. All these things I'll discuss, but my point here is interpretation will be different based on different perspective. Similarly, the different interpretation based on different perspective will lead to theories which are also functionalist. Means I'll discuss all these things in the coming sessions. Functionalist means those people who try to see things in a functional way, everything in a positive way. You see a crime, they will explain crime as functional. They will say that certain rate of crime is normal and is functional and it is very much required. If crime is not there, the police system, the judicial system, nothing will function. All of a sudden, if something happened, then it is going to be a big problem. So they consider crime as functional. They consider suicide as functional because suicide is actually helping you to understand some of the problems in society. So everything, if it is existing, it is having something to do for society. That's why they're existing. That is their approach. So functionalists will try to see if something is existing in society, it is required for society. That's why it is there. That's the approach of functionalists. And we will be seeing that in detail. We have a lot of functionalist theories. Okay, Émile Durkheim, we are going to spend around 4 or 5 days. Parson, Merton, all these are functionalists. So it's not going to be a big problem. Okay. So did you guys got this point? What is objectivity? Freedom from personal bias. What is personal bias, or from where the personal bias will come? From values. So what need to be done to remain objective? Free from all the bias. How can it be done? Value neutrality. Okay. So this is what I have actually discussed. I'll just write it now. Okay, so these are the problems in achieving objectivity, right? These are the different steps, and we also need to tell how can we achieve objectivity. Now remember guys, one more point is there. Do you think objectivity will be compromised, or the personal bias will be there even when you're selecting the topic also, right? Even when you're selecting the topic, personal bias will come. You will select those topics which is very much connected to you, or somehow personal bias will come. But according to Weber, in the selection of topic, objectivity can be tolerated to an extent. Once the selection of topic is done, that means this is what I'm going to study, then you try to ensure objectivity. Now the question is, so how are we going to write this answer if the question is asked? We have explained what is the context. Initial sociologists wanted to make it similar to science, so that's why this debate is there. Then we have explained what is objectivity, freedom from personal bias. We explained how bias is coming from values. We explained what is values also. And we told that how to remain objective, to be value neutral or to be value free. Total value freedom or total value neutrality is what we are looking for. Then we have explained in different steps of the research how objectivity can be compromised. Now we also need to tell how can you achieve. Yeah. So how can we achieve objectivity? That also we need to discuss. Now, tell me guys, how can we achieve objectivity? Can we achieve 100% objectivity? The fact is no. Absolute objectivity can never be achieved in sociology. Why? Because we are studying human beings studying human beings. We can never achieve 100% objectivity. Then what we need to say here, we are trying to ensure maximum possible objectivity with proper use of methods. I'm not mentioning the methods here because it will only make it complicated, because once you're done with the syllabus, we are going to learn a lot of methods. If you want, I can just name few: Verstehen, ideal types, causal pluralism, causal probabilism, comparative analysis, multivariate analysis. All these methods, that is something which we are going to study in future. So what I want to tell you is we are trying to ensure objectivity with proper methods, proper training of investigator. And according to Weber, one of the prominent sociologists, training is very much essential for a sociologist to have a value-free research. And then there is something called as organized skepticism. Organized skepticism means, like, I'm a researcher and we are the group. Okay. So what we do is I have done my research and I come to this group and I present my research. Then you will raise more points. It's not criticism. It is something like contribution. This organized group will contribute. That is what organized skepticism. So that I can add that points. That means what? Multiple perspectives, multiple viewpoints will come. So it's not only based on my view. If it is only based on my view, there may be bias. So if it is based on multiple views, organized skepticism can solve the problem of personal bias. So we can do all these things to ensure objectivity. But even then, absolute objectivity is not possible. So what we conclude is absolute objectivity is neither desirable nor possible in sociology. It is not possible for sure. Is it desirable also? If it is not possible, how is it desirable? Because human beings are studying human beings. It is not desirable as well. That is what you need to write. So I'll just show you what we have discussed and then I'll move to the PDF. So we are talking about this objectivity and value neutrality. So objectivity means free from personal bias. Okay, I'm not writing it completely. Now this personal bias will come from where? Objectivity means freedom from personal bias. Personal bias will come from where? Various values. Values means what? These are the ideas or the beliefs that we carry based on which we evaluate certain things. When an evaluation comes to your mind, automatically the bias will come. So what we need to do to remain objective, this should not be there. Which word you can use for that? Value freedom or value neutrality. Okay, so what you need to remain objective, you need to remain value neutral. All right, guys, then you need to tell in different areas where the values are compromised or personal bias is coming or objectivity is compromised, right from accumulation to theory building. How can you ensure objectivity? Also something which you need to explain. So I'll repeat once again. Objectivity means freedom from personal bias. Should not have any bias in the investigation. Bias means there should not be any assumptions, presumptions, prejudices. Nothing should be fixed in your mind before you go for analysis. So the bias will come from various values that we have. So values, explain then what is values. Then to remain objective, there should not be any value. That means value freedom or value neutrality. Then we are completely talking about this only. This topic is about value neutrality. So is objectivity and value neutrality are same now? It is not same, right? What I said is value neutrality is the mean to achieve the end of objectivity. So to remain value neutral is essential to achieve objectivity. It's not that value neutrality and objectivity is one and the same. You remain value neutral, you can achieve objectivity. Value neutrality is the mean to achieve the ultimate end of objectivity. Okay, so I hope it is done. Now let me go with the PDF. All right, guys, can you see the screen? Okay. Guys, just read this paragraph. What is fact? Fact is a empirically verified observation. Fact means the actual reality. So just read that. Facts remain same in every situation and for all observers. When it comes to science, mostly you deal with fact. When it comes to sociology, values will come. So we are more concerned about values, because we will be discussing about social facts and everything later. So just ignore this as of now. Just read it from your side. Value in sociology refers to this is not where I want to start. Just read this two paragraph. Okay, let's look into the actual topic. Initial sociologists, they try to develop sociology on the line similar to natural science. In this context, one of the most important precondition for any body of knowledge to qualify to be science is objectivity and value neutrality. Objectivity means freedom from all personal bias in sociological investigation. So now, what is value? Values are the basis of biases and subjectivity, and they flow from different preconceived notions. I think I've explained it in a much better way somewhere else. Okay, let's go with this. Values are the basis of, or I'll tell you what is values. Just understand that better than this definition, or this is also fine. Values are the beliefs and ideas that we carry in our mind based on which we evaluate situations. We evaluate certain things. When we evaluate means what all things we'll evaluate. What is superior, what is inferior, what is desirable, what is undesirable, what is preferred, what is rejected, right? So that is what I have told you. If you have a patriarchal mindset, a female child is not desirable, not preferred or rejected or not considered superior. A male child is preferred, son preference, right? A male child is desirable. And like that, that is I'm explaining value. Don't take it offensive. Objectivity, okay. So values, it is coming out of certain, it will be related to caste or gender, culture, class, religion, ideology. The source of value could be anything, okay? The personal bias flow from different values exist in society. Yeah, here I have explained what is that. Values is an idea through which individuals evaluate about desirability and undesirability of anything. So there are large number of values like religion, inequalities, which may create biases. So guys, this is slightly complicated. The same thing as what I've written here. Just read this one. And when you're writing the answer, you don't try to replicate the same thing that you see this kind of this. You have to write in your own language. So this is going to be better for you, the understanding of this, okay? So you will be able to write in your own language, and that shows that reflect the understanding that you have. And we are good in that, so make use of it rather than replicating the same sentence. Thus, value neutrality is a basic precondition for achieving objectivity. So remember, guys, value neutrality and objectivity are not one and the same. Okay, value neutrality is the means to achieve the end of objectivity. If you are value neutral, then only you can achieve objectivity. Since its emergence as a distinct discipline, sociology is often accused of facing the problem of objectivity. The critics of sociology asserted that objectivity is not possible in sociology and all. But what are the various levels in which problems will come? Problem means objectivity can be compromised. Directly accumulation of fact, right? Although we use number of scientific methods like observation, questionnaires, interview, but the application of these methods, the value or the bias of the researcher may hinder the achievement of objectivity. I've given you the example of interview method, right? Even the observation method is often accused of generating faulty information due to the bias of the observer. The famous study of Italian criminal by William White, the observer finally stopped acting as an observer, generating no information. He stated, I started as a non-participant observer. That means stay away, observe them. Ended up as participant, non-observer. They joined the group and not observing anything. In the same manner, the interview method may generate faulty information because of the bias of interviewer as well as interviewee. I hope you got the point. Guys, these are very simple topics. If the question is asked, must attempt, very good and very highly scoring as well. These are the topics. Once you understood the concept, then there is no need to worry. You have to go in, right? Interpretation of the facts. The interpretation of facts can also be colored by various viewpoints or subjective bias. So researcher with functional bias may tend to interpret some extreme forms of inequalities in functional. So guys, here, I told you what is functionalism. Functional bias means I am a functionalist. Suppose I'm a functionalist. So I'll say crime is normal in society. There is no problem in that. That is actually normal. I may say suicide is normal because I can understand the problem. For farmer, suicide is normal. It has to be there. If not, the government can't understand the problems of the farmer and they can't take any welfare measures. Right? Same way, inequality is normal. Otherwise, the society cannot survive. Everybody cannot be rich. These are okay. These are what I mean by functionalist approach. When I say functional bias, that means just because I'm functionalist, I'm trying to prove everything exists as good. I said crime is normal. But if I take a rape of a minor, can we say that is normal? No, right? But a person with functional bias, he will try to say that is also normal. But that is what I consider as functional bias. He is biased with that approach. Okay? Formulation of theories. That's the next step. Already interpretation is gone. So formulation of theory based on that interpretation will also be biased. That's it. That is what you're saying. Value-loaded interpretation will generate faulty theories, which give only one-sided view of reality. Thus, the resulting theories are again influenced by the bias of the investigator. Durkheim, for example, these theories we will discuss later. So you just don't want to break your head. Durkheim generated functional theory of religion. What Durkheim says is religion is very good. Functional. He's a functionalist. Functional, integrate people. Marx consider religion as opium of masses. Marx says religion is created by capitalists and religion is serving as like opiating force in the capitalist setup when the workers are exploited. For Marx, religion is the heart of heartless world, soul of soulless condition, and is just an opium of mass. Okay, we'll come to Marx and Durkheim later. But what my point is, the interpretation and the theory which both gave in the similar material context are different. Both are writing in the same material context present in 19th century. In this way, the problem of objectivity influences sociological investigation. Ensuring objectivity has been the main concern for sociologists since its emergence. Various steps have been taken or suggested in due course of time to help sociology to achieve objectivity. We have discussed this already, proper training of investigator. Okay. The investigator should confine himself to his own area of competence and should be properly trained to use the methods. Weber considered this as a very essential prerequisite for ensuring value neutrality. Next, objectivity can be ensured by making available the results of the investigation to organized skepticism. You know this point, right? Skepticism or organized skepticism, I've told already. This will help to reduce the bias of the investigator. So even if I come with a research, I am biased, but organized skepticism, you guys can help me to change. Okay. Sociology has attempted to deal with the problem of objectivity by propagating various concepts which help in ensuring objectivity. Since its inception, sociology has formulated scientific methods. You'll be seeing some methods here, but just ignore. Don't try to mug it up, guys, because these are methods that you're going to study later. You will never, ever forget it. If you try to mug it up now, this is going to be very difficult for you. Okay, mugging up is a very difficult task. Later, we are studying each of these one by one. Then after that, even if you want to, you can't forget it. So better just ignore this now. Durkheim's method of social facts, statistical technique, Weber's method of Verstehen, ideal types, causal pluralism, all these are to ensure objectivity. Then some sociologists even went to an extent of suggesting that sociologists or sociology should refrain from studying what ought to be. That means don't try to predict. Don't say what it should be. Rather, what it is. If you study that, then you can do, to an extent, ensure objectivity. If you try to predict, it is impossible. You can't predict human beings' behavior, right? You can't predict who will act what way tomorrow. Okay, then again, just read this paragraphs, concluding paragraphs. Objectivity is not an end in itself and is not a fixed principle. Meaning of objectivity today is not the same and has undergone a lot of changes. That means nowadays we are of the opinion that to some extent subjectivity can also be incorporated. Okay. Today objectivity has to be thought of as a continuous ongoing process rather than already achieved end result. So despite conflicting perspectives in sociology, objectivity can be maintained while adopting each one of them. So guys, these things, if you need to understand, we'll have to go further in the thinkers and everything. So that's why I'm not focusing too much on this. I'm just looking into the concept here. I've explained what is objectivity. I've explained what is the problem or how this objectivity is compromised. That is because of personal bias. I've also told why the personal bias is coming, value. I've explained what is value. And we have told that value neutrality is what is the aim of all the sociologists. And how to ensure value neutrality also we discussed. What are the different steps in the research where objectivity can be compromised also we discussed. Other things, if you need to, these are things, if you need to understand some things, we need to cover the thinkers part as well. All right, that's about this topic today. And we are done with the session. If you have any doubt, we can discuss now. I'll just unmute all of you in case if you have anything to ask me, you can.
Hello, sir. This is Divyesh. Sir, I have one doubt that formulation of theories. Could you please explain it once again?
Formulation of theory, nothing. See how theories are formulated. Data collection, interpretation. The next step is theory building. So already I've told that data collected is a problem. Objectivity is compromised. Interpretation is also value lauded because of different views of perspective. So that data collected and interpretation itself is compromising objectivity. So the resulting theory will also be a problem.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
Yes, sir, you were saying something non-observer, observer. That line I couldn't understand.
No, I'm saying in which context we are talking about that. We are talking about accumulation of data. So for collection of data, we have a lot of method. Participant observation, non-participant observation means you will go and join a group and you will try to observe that group and collect data. Non-participant means you won't join the group, you will observe them, you will collect the data. That means non-participant or interview or questionnaire or anything. There I've talked about non-participant observation. When he went for the study, he was not part of them, he was just observing them. but because of the bias which is generated after some time, he stated that, in fact, I started as a non-participant observer, but my mind have changed and I become participant non-observer. Now I'm not interested in study. That means that bias will come. That is what we are talking about.
Thank you, sir.